Hi guys, got another video for you today. This one's on the Gletcher 1911. There's a few makes and models out there that are basically identical to this in the way that they're put together, the mechanics and the parts, etc. So hopefully this video will be useful to you guys as well. In this video I'll be showing you how to completely strip this down. Next video will be the rebuild. I'll be doing the polishing, also adding the identifying marks with either acid etching, drag or rotary engraving, and sorting out the grips as well. Before we start, a little disclaimer. I'm not a gunsmith. This is what I do with my own air pistols. I do not recommend anyone follow the steps I've taken in this video. I do not accept any liability for any loss, damage or injury that may occur by anyone doing so. First things first, we need to make sure it's safe to work on. So pop the magazine out. Now, I never store my pistols with the magazines in, nor do I keep them loaded for a few reasons. Main one being safety. Second reason, if you've got BBs constantly loaded up in here, you're putting continuous pressure on the magazine feeding lips. This will wear them out a lot quicker and let BBs by, and you'll end up getting jams at the top slide. I never keep the co2 bulbs in either. What you can do is put indentations into the co2 bulb seal and you'll end up getting a co2 leak a lot quicker as well. Now we're going to start stripping the magazine down. We have 2 Phillips screws on the base here. The spring is pushing up against this part, so we need to keep this covered while we undo them. Slide that out. Take the spring out. And we have the rod that pushes the BBs. Next is the valve at the back here, and then the co2 bulb seal sitting on the inside. I made this tool to remove it. It's a 6mm or 1/4 inch socket, and the little prongs are 1.4mm wide. Slot that on and unscrew it. And there is a little O-ring tucked down on the inside here. And this sits on the end just there. Next is the co2 bulb seal and retaining nut. So we need to remove the co2 bulb pusher. And with the same tool, slot this down inside. Now with my one, it doesn't undo to the left, you have to undo it to the right. There we go, we've got O-ring there and the co2 bulb seal there. Next is the magazine feeding lips. We need to tap this pin out just here. Sometimes they have the knurling or the splines on them to help keep them locked in place. So just double check that you're going to be tapping it out from the correct side. Mine's got the knurling on the left hand side of the magazine, so I've got to tap it out from the right hand side. And there we go, so you can see the little knurling on it. That should just slide out. We have this inner section just here. And here are all the parts contained in the magazine. So now we need to remove the top slide from the lower frame. You have two cutaways here on the top slide. It's the smaller second cutaway. We line up with the slide catch release switch, and then we push on the back of the pin here on the opposite side of the pistol. So top slide back, line up the hole, push on the pin, pull out the switch, off with the top slide. Then we're going to put the hammer back in its original position. So hold on to the hammer, pull on the trigger and release it like that. Okay, so now we're going to start stripping down the top slide. I'm going to push this section in here, twist the front cover, and slide it off, slip the spring out, then going to hold this section here and pull the rod and the spring forward and off of this little rod that is sitting on here. Slide this out. Then I'm going to push the whole barrel assembly forward and out the front. So now we need to remove the rest of the parts out of the top slide. Just along this inside edge here is a long thin spring, the guide rod, sitting against the face of this whole section here, as you can see from the picture. So what we need to do is hold this whole section while we undo this Allen key mock firing pin here. And then keeping your finger and thumb over this section, I'm going to tease this whole piece up and out. And that's that guide rod. And there's the spring. So now I need to separate the nozzle and probe section. This slides forward and off. You have the probe inside there. And then you have this washer seal held on with a fillet screw. Sometimes these get left behind when you unscrew them. So I just use a end of a cable tie just to tease them off. And then you have a split washer on the screw there as well. Next we need to separate the barrel assembly. You have this pin here that needs to be pushed out. It's kind of deceptive, it looks like you need to push on here, but it's not. It's actually in this cutaway section here. You can just get on the back of the pin there and push it through. Separate those two pieces. So now I need to separate the barrel from its housing. You have this little split shim here made out of plastic. That slides off. And you've got two small fillet screws that need to be undone here. Separate the housing. Then you have this rubber end sitting on the end of the barrel here, and that just slides off. And here's all the parts contained in the top slide. Next we need to start stripping down the lower frame. So we need to remove the grips. Now we need to take the tension off the grip safety and hammer by removing this pin here. We do that from the opposite side. We need to push up slightly and push this pin through. Slide the base off here, and we have a leaf spring here. Inside the base here we have a spring and cup, so we push down on that and slide it out. Next we need to remove the safety. There is a spring inside here with two rods either end. We need to keep the hammer in the upright position, push the switch up. We're going to be tapping on this pin here. There's a switch for it. And here is the spring and rods. So you've got one either end. Now we can slide out the grip safety, and we have a screw here that we need to undo with a Phillips screwdriver. Now we need to push that pin through. So to protect the threads, just using a very thin precision screwdriver. Next is the hammer assembly and guide rails. You have a Phillips screw just here. We're going to keep, as these are two separate parts, our thumb over the whole section. Undo that screw. and keeping hold of this whole section here, slide it up and out. Now we do have springs and sears under here, so we're going to carefully tease this off. And here we have the spring, the little sears in there. See it's sitting one end on here, the other end is tucked up inside that very thin slot just inside there. So we're going to take that end of the spring loop off. And there's one of the ends of the spring sears. You have the hammer sitting on that rod just there, and you have two sections just here. These slide up and out, and then the trigger slides out the back of the frame like that. You might have a split pin like mine, or a screw, or another type of pin if you need to remove the trigger. And then with the last piece, the rear assembly, you have a small Phillips screw here, and just inside there is a spring which is pushing against that sear there. So you want to keep your finger or thumb over it all while you undo it. Tease it off. And there we go. And here are all the parts contained in the lower frame.